All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Never Stop Healing podcast. This is your host of the day, Cade Archibald, and very honored and excited to be here with everybody this morning. We got some really cool stuff we're going to be covering, and we will have Regan joining us. He'll be joining us here shortly as well. Before we dive into today's content, just want to cover a little bit of what we discussed last night, talked about in our hack. So if you're not a part of our health accelerator program or the hacks, the health accelerator challenges, go to acueastwest.com/hack. That's HAC. And that'll give you some resources and details there. But we've been covering the 60-day reset and going through some challenges. We have 6 main challenges. We've been talking about this the past few weeks. And so hopefully you guys have been able to follow along with some of those challenges. I'm going to cover them here in a moment. But before that, last night we talked about cold exposure, and that's one of our challenges, is getting some hot and cold exposure. And so if you haven't had a chance or haven't started some cool cold exposure, I think that is one thing you got to try out. You can do a cold shower. One of our favorite things to do is one of the simplest ways to do this would be when you turn on the shower, instead of waiting for it to warm up, you just hop right in. And then the beautiful thing is it's going to warm up eventually, right? The other thing is at the very end, you turn it to the cold setting and hang out for about 2 minutes. That activates your cold shock proteins, does some really, really great health benefits there. So, and then I'm going to cover our challenges here. Hopefully you guys are just rocking this and keeping track of this as well. Last night I also showed you guys the habit tracker by James Clear. He's the author of Atomic Habits, and it makes tracking this in a journal really nicely, or you can use this grid system that we have as well, but have some really good resources there in that. But let's cover just real quick the challenges we're doing right now. Sleeping. So hopefully you guys all got some really good sleep. You want to eat your meal, no food within 3 hours. No food within 3 hours of going to bed. So ideally you'd stop around 6:30, 7, get to bed about 9:30, 10, and then you're waking up between 5:30 and 6. So you're getting 8 full hours, really good quality sleep. Removing screens, 60 minutes at minimum before bed, ideally 3 hours. And wearing some blue light blockers. We've been sending those out to all of our Accelerate Wellness members. So hopefully you guys have started to get those and excited about them. Love to see some pictures in the Signal chat if you guys have a chance. So that's challenge 1. Challenge 2 is hydration. Really getting in the morning, the biggest factor here is when you wake up in the morning, you're at least 8 to 12 ounces depleted in water. And what most people do is they'll wake up and they drink some coffee, and then coffee dehydrates you even more. And so now you're about 24 ounces, depending on how much coffee you drink, you're somewhere around 20 to 24 ounces depleted in your hydration and water. And so waking up, getting some good water, adding in some electrolytes, or you can do some sea salt, some Redmond salt, and some lemon juice, something like that. Those will really help with your hydration. And then the third challenge is no sugar, less than 1 gram of sugar. This one is super challenging for everyone. but it also helps you. We want to encourage you guys, look at your labels, make sure you're paying attention to those things. Because sometimes you'll see, there's countless amounts of time when I've picked up like a protein bar or a health bar that looks like, oh, this looks great. It's got all the right logos and certifications. And then I look on the back and it's got like 10, 15 grams of sugar. And so it is, it's definitely not, that's not going to be health promoting. And so it at least teaches you that. And yes, Bev, it does create your shopping experience is about 3 times longer. But I think it helps us be more mindful. And then once you get used to that, then you know what's gonna be best for you. And then exercise, lifting weights, HIIT workout, Pilates, getting outside. These things can be super helpful. We talked about the cold and heat exposure, and then your mindset morning. So hopefully you guys are getting in some really good deep breathing in the morning, doing a little bit of journaling, and identifying yourself with who you're going to be. Who is your future self? So I'm alert, fit, healthy, pain-free, active, happy, giving, charming, appreciative, thoughtful, trusting, financially secure, purpose-driven, wise, loving, fun, relatable. So those are some of the things that Regan and I came up with on this 60-day challenge. So hopefully you guys are having fun with that. Type into the chat box how you're doing there. Really great stuff. Awesome, Judy. And so these have been, this has been a really fun experience for us to go through on this 60-day. So really, really exciting stuff. And so we're going to dive into more specific topic today here. I'm bringing on Regan as we speak. I'm trying to get him in. He just got done with his workout, and then he was running to the clinic and ran into a little bit of traffic. So he's running a few minutes late, but I wanted to cover the 60-day reset. Looks like everyone's been doing really well with that. It's been a fun experience for me. Some of probably my biggest challenge, I had my birthday this last weekend, and seems like everyone decided to give me a gift of like cake, or not necessarily cake, but sugary goodies. And I've been like, no sugar. And so I did splurge a little bit. So I missed a few points there. But my exercise has been great. Let's see. What do you think about apple cider vinegar with water in the morning? I love it. And I do that actually, Bev. Really helps with your digestion, and helps balance your pH levels. There's some great stuff with apple cider vinegar. Oh, thanks so much, Judy. So let's see here. Awesome. Well, we're I'm seeing what's going on with the tech here. But on this, so hopefully, is anyone not participating here that's attending live? Obviously, we got people that'll listen to this recording, but anyone not doing the 60-day reset that needs a little bit more insights? Because I think this is something that everyone needs to do on a regular basis, is go through just a full reset in their health experience. And so if you're not participating in this, the beautiful thing is you can start with one habit. And that's what, if you look at Atomic Habits, if you read that book, it's all about adding in one habit at a time to really shape those habits. I know Reagan mentioned it last night, and then it's a Dan Sullivan quote, but we're all accustomed to our own habits. And so if we have some bad habits, it's not because we don't have discipline. We're just disciplined to that specific habit. So we can change those habits and create discipline around new habits. And that's what this is all about, is creating some good helpful habits. Oh, awesome. Thanks. Shawnee posted the Atomic Habits audiobook there for us. And so, or Audible, perfect. Thank you for posting that. And so what I would challenge you guys on is pick up at least one of these at a time. And so maybe you're, depending on how you're feeling with these things, whether pick one that you think is going to be the easiest win, and go with it. Some people, the cold exposure, cold showers just seems daunting, and that's okay. But let's start somewhere. It's actually, it is. Oh, there he is. All right. Well, Reagan's joining us. I was just going over the 60-day challenge, and then also inviting everybody to, if they're not doing the 60-day the 60-day reset, then at least start with one challenge a day, or one habit tweak per day, or at least just one over the next month, and really get it down. And so, so we got Regan Archibald with us, made it through traffic. Thanks for joining us today, Regan. Excited to see you. And we're going to be diving in some really cool stuff on longevity today, right?
Yep. Longevity is what we're going to be talking about, and rhythms in life, because what we're doing is we're getting ready now that we've done the reset. We're getting ready to move into the recharge phase. And one of the things that we don't realize, and I'll share my screen with you guys so you can get a little sneak preview of where we're going in this whole process, and just to get your mindsets ready, because so many of you have done great on the reset, but pretty soon in our Accelerate Wellness community, and just want to congratulate all of you who are in programs and all the work that's been done. It's just been impressive. But the very next phase we're going into is what's called the recharge. And in order to have longevity, there's 3 pathways that David Sinclair talks about. And these 3 pathways are opening up the mTOR pathway, and the AMPK pathway, and then the sirtuin pathways. And a lot of you are like, what does that mean? Well, if you think about yin yang, so there's energies that we all balance in our lives. And some of the energies are, okay, when are we going to push and go really hard? And then when are we going to pull back? And so if you think about those energies, the most important thing about it is making sure that we manage them. And so it's one thing if you have unexpected circumstances that show up, like I did this morning, and I could have been really stressed and had high blood pressure and been all nervous when I got on, like, oh man, it's been a crazy morning. But I'm like, oh, I know Cade's got it, and I know you guys are great, and there's going to be nothing I can do about it. So I'm just going to I'm going to stay present and keep my energy about me. So when it's time to get on, I'll be just right. It'll be no problem. And so the recharge is really, there's some things that we're going to talk about, but it's really built around this idea of essentialism. And the entire Accelerate program is intended to simplify your life, because how many of you feel overwhelmed when it comes to your health? Or how many of you, when you go to your doctor and you get a diagnosis and you realize, like, well, I don't know what to do. And in some ways, the medical community has created an overwhelm in our life because they've tried to throw so many things at us at once. And I see so many of us, we're chasing around so many different pathways and avenues when it comes to our health. We're swallowing all the supplements and we're doing all the things. But what the recharge is about is the undoingness. And the undoingness is the most important. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And so, Cade, essentialism. But what comes to mind when you hear the word essentialism?
Focusing on on what's essential or what's the most important thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so, uh, so the nice thing about this is when you can focus on what's absolutely essential, that means doing the right thing at the right time with the right people. Because how many of you feel like, sometimes you're like, well, there's so many choices out there and so many avenues I could pursue, and I don't know which one to pursue. And especially when it comes to health, like everybody, it seems like there's always the newest thing. And one of the reasons why we practice what's called innovative medicine, and we have a whole academic think tank called Go Wellness, is a company I founded. And what Go Wellness does is, when Cade and I founded it, we looked at it and we said, we've got to get these practitioners and doctors up to date on the latest innovations in healthcare, so that it simplifies the process. But one of the things you have to do if you're simplifying is you have to let go of some of the things in the past. And so how many of you have a closet that needs to be cleaned out? And does anyone have that? Or maybe you have a garage that needs to be cleaned out. Cade, I know you and we love to have toys in our garage, and the more the better, but
Yes.
but it can make for a cluttery environment. But if you think
especially
about
with young kids.
yeah, man, because you got to have the bikes the right size, and then you have the toys, and then as they grow out of one, it's like, when do you actually get rid of that trike that they can't fit on anymore, but they ride it occasionally? And so this is, I like how Bev said, living in the past closet. Yes. Yeah, we get stuck in our past closet, our future closet, because you can, pull out an article of clothing, and the best way to think about essentialism, one of the best ways, is to look at it and say, well, do I really need this shirt? I haven't worn it in a year, but I might wear it. And could you wear it? How many of you have an article of clothing that you haven't worn in a long time that's just sitting collecting dust in your closet? Maybe you say, I'm going to fit in these pair of jeans again, or I'm going to go to this event. I might need this black dress or these shoes. I want to wear my cowboy boots. I have these amazing cowboy boots, and they're so comfortable. I only put them on about once a year, and I don't ever get rid of them, because I'm like, well, I do like wearing them when I do wear them. But there's one question you can ask yourself. Well, are you asking the right question when you're looking at the essentials in your closet? And so maybe the right question isn't so much like, well, do I enjoy these cowboy boots? The right question is, are they essential to what I'm trying to accomplish in my life and what I need in my life? And so that's one of the things as we look at longevity. Longevity in our life, it creates an environment where we have to let go of the things that are non-essentials. And so what we're going to do in this next recharge that starts just after the spring equinox in just a couple of weeks, we're going to look at those essential things and to maximize them. And so some of the essential things that we're doing in the reset, we're already putting those in place. So we need to get the essential habits in place in this first 60 days in your program. And those essential habits, getting the right peptides in, so you're opening up the right pathways, making sure you're using the cell core detoxification. That's a simplification and bringing charged particles into your body. So you are resetting the mitochondria, getting your body out of the cell danger response. And then the great thing about this is now you're moving on and you're elevating to this recharge. But the big thing in the recharge is, let's let go of the things that are non-essential and focus on those that are. And so if you think of essentialism, it's not about how to get more things done. It's about how to get the right things done. Essentialism is not one more thing. It's a whole way of doing everything. And I think when it comes to health, this is really critical, because I see so many people doing like these crazy juice fasts and detoxifications, water fast, dry fast. These are great things, by the way. They're essential to overall healing. But sometimes we get so caught up in thinking we need to do more, while the recharge is about doing less. Because if you think about it, if you walk into your closet and the closet's just overflowing, there's going to be some energy stagnation. And it's the same with our life. If we're trying to do everything at once, then nothing gets done. And there's this whole concept in life called FOMO, and fear of missing out. And so we get so nervous that we're missing out on something, but really what we need is the JOMO, the how much more joy can you bring into your life. And Essentialism is been one of those great books that has helped me think differently about it. And then Dan Sullivan, who's got a goal to live to be 156, he's someone who exemplifies this. So whenever we look at peptides for longevity, we say, okay, what are the peptides that are going to reset the disease patterns in your body, reset aging, and propel you in a direction that gets rid of the non-essential things? And so this is where we talked about the peptide Epitalon last week. And Epitalon is one of those peptides that helps move you directly towards that path of longevity by activating the telomeres. And so when you activate the telomeres, which are these little, it's almost like a shoestring, that little coupler that binds the shoestrings together. When that coupler comes undone, your shoestrings start to unravel. And so it's the same thing with your DNA as you go through life. And as we get, stress and traumas and biotoxins and interferences, our DNA starts to unravel. And so one of the things that Epitalon does is it's a great peptide to bind up those shoestrings and pull them tight so that the DNA sequencing is duplicated in a way that it allows you to express health and not have senescent cells. So essentialism is when we look at how can we make that one choice that gets rid of 1,000, and how can we in medicine, the way we look at it in healthcare is how can we do one thing that removes 1,000 risks from you? How can we focus on that one thing that moves the needle more than anything else? And that's where we have our very specific 6-month program where we go through and we activate different pathways in your body so that you start expressing health in brand new ways. So if you look at this from essentialism, the way of the essentialist, so essentialism is essentially where you take on a lifestyle where I am now an essentialist. And one of the things that we've done with our entire wellness program is we've said, okay, we're going to think about this from an essentialist way of living by design and not by default. You live by default when you're practicing reactive healthcare, when you've got high blood pressure and you've got to take the medication because you're at risk of a stroke, or when you've got high hemoglobin A1C or insulin levels, and now you need to take a diabetic medication to handle those symptoms. That's by default. Or man, I didn't take care of my cardiovascular system. Now I've had a heart attack and holy smokes, I need to be in the hospital. I need to get a stent or whatever needs to happen. What the essentialism is in health is doing the right thing at the right time for your body with the right group of people who are considering your future health, your future well-being. What I see in medicine, it's all about the present moment. What are you looking at today? And the lens is very narrow. And so what we've done is we've tried to extend the lens and said, okay, what can I do right now to help you live to be another 20, 30, maybe 40 years healthy, and even 10 years. And so then if I say, okay, what are going to be the treatments that are going to move the needle the most in your care? And how can we do that in the simplest way possible? And that's where the whole program comes into place, where we have the reset, the recharge, and then the restore. And that this whole recharge is all about, now that we've got your body functioning better and we've removed a lot of the symptoms and gotten rid of a lot of these interferences and biotoxins, now your body can start to advance. And so what Greg McKeown says in his book, Essentialism, he says, there are two ways to think about essentialism. The first, to think of it as something that you do occasionally. The second is to think of it as something you are. In the latter, it is a different way, a simpler way of doing everything. It becomes a lifestyle. So how many of you would say you're just by nature, you're an essentialist? Okay. Yeah, what are your thoughts on it, Cade? Would you call yourself more of an essentialist?
Yeah. At least I'd hope to be.
I can tell you, I am working on being an essentialist. I'm a more is better kind of a human, but over time, I'm starting to realize the wisdom in cutting things out and just focusing on those things that really that I do well at. It's tough. Judy says, yeah, nope, needs to be learned. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I would say I'd like to be an essentialist, but yeah, yeah, there's a lot going on and could definitely trim things down.
yeah, and I think what oh, good. Chanel says, working on it too, but it doesn't come naturally for me. It's a practice. It's a reminder, right? Because what we all want to do is we want to do everything for everyone as soon as they ask of it. And that's that whole idea of, if you don't own your life, then someone else will own it for you. If you're not very disciplined and if you're not intentional about what you want in life, what essentialism teaches us is that you will get recycled. You'll be used somewhere else for someone else's agenda. And so it's really important to get clear on, hey, in my health, I know there's pharmaceuticals out there and I know there's commercials that are always trying to get me to take a different path, but really what we want to do when it comes to your health is say, let's get rid of these non-essentials and let's put in the essentials, and that will move the needle in so many more ways. So essentialism, the rule number one is to design a space in your life in which you can escape. So how many of you have a space where you can just kind of wander off to and I like what Pablo Picasso said. He said, without great solitude, no serious work is possible. So how many of you have some space, and it doesn't even need to be a physical space, but maybe it's just where you can turn off your reminders, get off the social media, stop texting, for a minute and just put everything on airplane and like actually do some deep work on yourself. And one of the practices that we have in your first 60-day reset is the mindset morning. And the mindset morning is it's a powerful experience, and it doesn't take long. Set your timer. We gave you in the 60 days, we said, all right, what if you just took 6 minutes? My preference is that you work up to 9 minutes or even longer. But what if you just took 2 minutes and you just cleared your mind? You did some breathing, like Wim Hof breathing. You do some yogic breathing, pranayama, whatever type of breathing you want to do. And you get in a meditative space, you drop deep into your body and you just kind of slow things down and get really present with where you are. Then the timer goes off. The next 2 minutes is where you're really focusing on what you need to accomplish today. And you're grading yourself on all these 6 challenges. How's your hydration? Are you doing great on that? How's your exercise been? What's going on when it comes to your body's cold exposure? And you just go through the 6 habits, and then you score yourself, and then the timer goes off. In the next 2 minutes, you say, okay, what am I becoming? Who do I identify with? Because the first 2 months in this reset is all creating new habits, and that's where James Clear comes in his book Atomic Habits. So if you haven't read that one, and you guys are, many of you are in your 60-day reset, and so make sure you grab the book Atomic Habits. And the very first thing in creating a new habit is identify with yourself as who you want to become, and then make it very difficult to do the things that are getting in the way of you becoming who you want to become. So if one of the challenges that we have, if you said, hey, I'm going to become the healthiest version of myself. Now I'm in a very structured program. I made the commitment that I'm going to keep these challenges, these 6 core things. Well, and those are the essential things that I need to focus on in the next 60 days. We can't have you focus on everything. So we just have you focus on these 6 things. then what you can do is you can say, okay, well, sugar, I can't eat anything with more than 1 gram of sugar in it. And these are processed sugars. You can still eat some fruit, just to clarify, but you look at that and you say, well, I need to make it really hard to eat sugar. Oh, and alcohol is a sugar, so I got to get rid of alcohol. This is going to be challenging. Well, maybe you need to move some things out into like a place where you need to get a ladder to get to your alcohol, or maybe you need to give away all your wine, or maybe it needs to be, hey, I'm with the sugar, I'm going to actually just like, I'm going to get rid of it. And so it's not anywhere near me. And so the only way you can get it is to get in your car, go to the grocery store, get on Amazon and order something, but it gives you a gap. And so what James Clear recognizes, and other authors like Benjamin Hardy, is when we have a little bit of space between the stimulus, like, hey, I need some sugar, and then you think about it and process it. If you can get, the more space you can give yourself, the easier it is to say, well, I don't really, I'm enjoying my life right here in the chair more than I'm enjoying the sugar, or I'm going to figure out another activity that's going to satiate me, versus, jumping into that bottle of wine or the whiskey or whatever it might be. So number one, design the space in which you can escape. And literally that doesn't mean like, yes, go on adventures, find something that's invigorating, but really what this means is a space of non-distraction. So that's rule number one. We'll just do rule number two. We'll just start with these two today. Spend time exploring. And this is pretty interesting. Albert Einstein, he said, when I examine myself and my methods of thought, I come to the conclusion that the gift of fantasy has meant more to me than my talent for absorbing positive knowledge. So that's pretty interesting. So Albert Einstein, he was just a genius, obviously, but he was known for, being in California. He had this little cabin out there with the lake, and he was known for being out on his boat, having leisure time. He was learning how to play music, but he was very interested and curious in the universe. And he wasn't interested in clocking a number and saying, oh, I put in 12 hours of research today, patting himself on the back. He was more interested in understanding the way things worked. And because Albert Einstein took a step back, and instead of being in the doingness all the time, he was in the curiosity state and the beingness. And so, it's easy to forget that we're human beings and not human doings. And so what Greg McKeown says is essentialists spend as much time as possible exploring, listening, debating, questioning, and thinking. And that's the cool thing about our audience is you've spent so much time. It's so impressive how much time you spend digging into your health. I mean, just the fact that you're listening to this today and participating, it shows that you're somebody who's very curious about the universe and about the way things work, and about absorbing positive knowledge. The exploration, what Greg McKeown says, the exploration is not an end in and of itself. The purpose of the exploration is to discern the vital few from the trivial many. And I think that's pretty interesting, because right now, people say we're in the information age, and this information age, I tell people it's not more information that we need. In some cases, it's less. And that's what we've done in our program, in the Accelerate Wellness program at East West. We've said, well, look, we've got to make a choice, and we've got to be very strategic on taking you down and opening up the right pathways in your body at the right time, so that you can make the most progress in your health in the least amount of time. And a lot of that has been, we had to get rid of so much, but in doing so, we've been able to exponentially increase the speed at which people get better. One of the new peptides that has been researched for a few years now, but now we're seeing it in clinical practice, is the semaglutide. And this is a GLP agonist, which really helps take some pressure off the pancreas And then it also is one of the best ways to activate what's called the GLUT4 transportation in the body. And so this semaglutide has been shown to increase weight loss, improve cardiovascular markers like cholesterol, lipids, and we'll be sharing more with you about this, but it's one of these essentials in our peptide quiver. And the other thing it's been shown to do is it's amazing for reversing some of the blood sugar issues. And so when I look at this, and it's been shown to be very safe, no severe adverse reactions in the clinical trials. It bodes well with all types of medication. We had one of our biohacker pharmacists, Mike Caruso from VPI. He was in a strongman competitions for years, and he realized that was not essential to his life anymore. So now he's this brilliant pharmacist who loves to help people, but his whole PhD was based around insulin sensitivity and insulin resistance. And one of our essentials to healing is recovering insulin sensitivity so that you can actually get energy and nutrients into the cell. And so if you see your hemoglobin A1C being high, your fasting glucose high, your LDH high, your cholesterol high, triglycerides high, LDL cholesterol especially, these are all markers that we say we've got to get rid of that interference so that we can get the essential thing fixed in your body, which is getting the insulin working. And so semaglutide seems to be semaglutide, ARA290, MOD-SC. These are all phenomenal innovations that have just come about recently that are part of that essentialist that we consider when it comes to getting rid of that big interference, which is insulin resistance. So, so here's another quote on essentialism. He says, "This is why an essentialist takes the time to explore all his options. The extra investment is justified because some things are so much more important that they repay the effort invested in finding those things tenfold. An essentialist, in other words, discerns more so he can do less." So once again, this is where peptides have been that more factor where we get more done with the least amount of time possible. We've found the same in regenerative medicine. It's been very exciting. And so, yeah, Bev, you're asking, is semaglutide available now? It is available. So yes, give me a call because it'd be amazing for you. It would be a very good next step. So essentialism is kind of exciting. You know, as I look at it, I say, well, what are the essentials in your life? Well, I think the first thing we need to uncover and unpack is, well, what do we need to say no to? And, you know, I just have a few things, but, you know, some of the things we all need to say no to is low quality food, desserts, soda, things like that, things that are artificial, you know, and it's everywhere. It's so challenging because sometimes you're just super hungry. And so, so what the essentialists will do is, I found food preparation mitigates the poor choices. If I can prepare my food, my wife is so helpful in this, and I really I appreciate so many things about her. But one of the things she does is, we have a very tightly managed house. And Cade, you've been there a lot, and you see how nice it is in the morning when we pull out food for lunch, and it's all there. It makes it pretty easy.
Oh, so much better.
Healthy options.
Especially when it's high quality food.
Yep. You got better energy for the day. You know, we eat a good breakfast and we're just like, all right, it is awesome. So I think that's an essential, right? Because if you don't prepare and if you don't have things ready for the day, then you're working in the non-essential, because then you're going to stop at the cafe or coffee shop or wherever you stop, the grocery store, and get some food. And then usually when you're hungry, there's non-essential things that start piling up. And so this is really important to food prep.
Yes. Yeah, or at least have a plan and strategy around it. So when you do go to the store, yeah, there's like a process that you have to make sure you're getting the right foods. Before you hopped on, we were talking about the no sugar and looking at labels, because sometimes you just look at the packaging and it looks all like pretty and attractive and, oh, this has got to be healthy. How could it not? And then you like turn it over and look at the label, and there's 15 grams of sugar per serving, and there's 5 servings. That's a lot of sugar.
Right. Yeah, the worst is when you're eating something and you forget, and then you look and you're like mortified. You're like, I had no idea. So, so yes. Okay. So, nutrition, this is a good one. What do you need to say no to? How many of you have negative relationships? And yeah, so Bev says, be careful, as I found my coconut aminos, it's loaded with sugar. It's crazy. Yes, loaded with sugar. And so you got to be careful. Thanks, Bev, for bringing that up. So how many of you have negative relationships that seem to be non-essential? Oh, food prep. Yes, Leanne, I know. Yes, and food prep is going to save you. So food prep is challenging. And what's the most challenging thing about it? Is it not having the right recipes, or is it not blocking out time? Or maybe you could plug it in. We could do, I'm sure, how many of you have issues with food prep? Because I think all of us do. And I can tell you, Leanne, if I didn't have a great wife who did the food prep, it would be a challenge for me too. So, and multiple people are raising their hand on having challenges with food prep. So we can spend a little more time kind of uncoupling this, but really the best way is figure out a day. Usually it's 2 days when you're going to spend about 2 to 3 hours preparing your food. And so what this means is you need the ingredients there, and you need to either go to the store or order the ingredients that you need before you start prepping the food. And then what you also need to know is, before you start prepping it, what are you going to make? And so this is where having the right recipes are really critical, and then knowing what you're trying to accomplish before you set out to accomplish it. And I love having, when my wife, we make a lot of meat, so we'll have things of chicken, things of beef. Sometimes she'll do like some bacon. She makes these amazing, like breakfast burritos, and those are very simple. She knows the exact macros and everything. So we're really trying to piece out our macros. And this is in your recharge phase of the program. We're going to be talking more about macros and how to start building out your whole eating structure around getting the right macronutrients in. And when I say macros, I mean the right proteins, the right carbs, and the right fats. Based on what your labs show. So we're going to start building this in, and that makes it that much easier to food prep, because, essentially, okay, I need 200 grams of protein, I need about 200 grams of carbs, and I need about 80 grams of fat. I'm just giving you an arbitrary number. But I think it's really important to block that out and then have some recipes, and then you've got to have the food there. Judy says she loves the crock pot. That's so helpful. Man, the roast that you can make in crock pots, and then all the vegetables you can put in there, because I love cooking my vegetables, and it's better for you to eat those. So if you cook a bunch of vegetables in the crock pot, you're getting all those, and especially for those of you doing bone broth, it's great having some vegetables and bone broth ready to go. And then when it comes to starches, we haven't really talked about that, but have some white rice, some sweet potatoes. And remember, when you cook them, and if you cool them down, you can reheat them and still get that resistant starch, but they're going to be more healthy for you, because you're going to have these resistant starches that have a really good benefit for the gut, the biome, so your large intestine. Even the sourdough bread, it's got some very good benefits. So make sure you have, your healthy carbs, your meats, your proteins, and then your vegetables. These are really key. So I would, just make sure you've got those 3 things all lined up. Sometimes they don't work perfectly, but you can mix and match, and you can have a little bit of variety. But I find with food prep, you do need to get, used to eating some of the same things for a couple meals out of the day. And I don't mind that at all. So hopefully that helps, Leanne. Yes. So the other thing, the essentials, negative relationships, things that are draining you. And sometimes it's just having conversations that are not fun. And these okay, good. That was helpful. Awesome, Leanne. Sometimes those conversations, it's not like every relationship's just going to be amazing. The best relationships in my life is there's going to be conflict, and we got to confront the conflict, and then we transcend it, and then we just become stronger and move in a new direction together. It's just how life works. How many of you have unnecessary commitments or obligations? And I know a lot of you have got a lot of kids, a lot of grandkids, great grandkids, and maybe sometimes just saying no because you need to take care of your own health and work on your own life is okay. These are big things. How about hours on social media? How many of you could spend less time on social media? How many of you could say no to being sedentary? I think you guys are all pretty darn active, but sometimes we just say, I don't really feel up for it today. But I can tell you, pushing through that discomfort and getting out on that hike, and getting out that 30 minutes as the sun is rising can just change your whole mindset. You can come in from that 30 minutes and that sedentary piece is gone. How many of you could get rid of the non-essential, which is complaining? I know this is it's a easy thing to fall into, is complaining, and so it could be one of those non-essentials. So these are some things to think about today. We're going to be kind of moving in with our members of the Accelerate Wellness Program. Just want to thank you guys for being part of it. It's so fun seeing the progress that's been made in the 60-day reset. The recharge is going to be really exciting for you, because what you're going to see is just a massive improvement in your quality of life because of you taking the pathway of being the essentialist and getting rid of those non-essentials. So I love that. And Bev says, yes, kindness is a gift everyone can afford to give. That's beautiful. And that's one of the very first challenges in the Accelerate program, is do an act of kindness daily. So I love that. There's nothing like an act of kindness. So, and you guys have been so kind, so gracious to us. I just want to thank you for being a part of this community. The special announcement is on Saturday in Draper at the Viewpoint. It's an apartment complex with this really nice gym. Michael Banks, my trainer, is having an open house from noon to 2. And I'm going to be there, and I'm going to have a presentation on longevity, peptides for longevity and fitness. And so don't miss that. It's going to be a really fun time. You can go to bodybybanks.com to register. If you don't register, you can come. We're going to have some social media posts. You'll see it circulating on our email, but I'd love to have you guys out and just chat with you, about your fitness goals. But Michael Banks is just been amazing. We did work on his neck and his back, and he's every day is like, I can't believe my neck doesn't hurt at all. This is incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so cool. So make sure you get out to that. Feel free to email us if you want more information.
Very cool. Well, awesome. Well, make sure you make it out to the Saturday open house there in Draper. We'll be emailing out some details on that. And thank you so much for joining us today, Regan. Amazing content. And I definitely got to up my game on my essentialism I learned. And so as well as looks like most everyone in the chat box has got some great ideas. So thank you so much. We love you all. We'll be back same time, same place next week. See everybody.
Bye-bye.